What's going on, everybody? Welcome back inside the Janitor's Closet. Bryce Hunt, Josh Frey-Sam here with you folks for our weekly best bets video. Josh, we have three plays today for this upcoming football slate. Tell the people what you saw as a whole and kind of how you're seeing the board these days.
Yeah, once again, we're like I said the same thing last week with like it's just we're kind of treading water, staying afloat right now. That's what it was last week as well. We got a little bit unlucky with the we had an over in that Baltimore Vikings game, and that one those ones just suck sometimes where the both offenses are moving the ball, they have their opportunities, and you're settling for field goals all the time. And so that's one that we would have. It was a good bet, just didn't go our way, and then the other one we hit, so that was nice. So just 1-1, and we're just kind of treading water right now. But hopefully, as it stands right now, we'll see how I'm finding myself actually a little bit more interested in some more totals than I was early on in the year. Early in the year, we were just strictly sides pretty much, and so like now I'm interested a little bit more totals. Boards clearing up in that respect, but we'll see how things go here. I think it's just that mid-season lull in the NFL, just how it always goes, right? And so we'll see how things shake out, but confident we got three plays. And actually, I forgot to tell you before we recorded, I actually got a fourth here north of the border.
Goodness me. Well, we know it's Grey Cup week. Goodness me, we got balloons popping in the house. Grey Cup week in Canada, up north of the border, as Josh mentioned. We had a play last year. We'll have a play again this year by the sounds of it. Folks, before we get rolling here, if you want to do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below. We appreciate your support. And without further ado, let's get into these plays, Josh. You mentioned that Baltimore game in Minnesota last week. We're heading right back to US Bank Stadium for our first play here. Where are we going with the Chicago Bears taking on the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, nice NFC North divisional matchup here. It's starting to get crunch time here. We're going to see more and more divisional matchups in the second half of the season here. So really excited about this. Bears at Vikings. We're going over 48 and a half, and these are all going to be one unit plays. But I'll remind you guys as we go along through the show here. Over 48 and a half in this one. These teams already played. You'll remember, Bryce, week one. 27-24 was the final in that one. The reason why I'm going back into the total here in the over, that game back in week one in Chicago. This is now in a dome in Minnesota. Both of these offenses are so much different than they were back in week one, where they were able to find success against each other. You've got JJ McCarthy now, who's a little bit more settled, and those obviously those weapons. Justin Jefferson obviously hasn't been as good as he's been in the past, but he's talking about how he wants to get. He's saying all the right things as far as how he wants to get back to what he was beforehand. On the flip side, Chicago Bears offense, they're putting up numbers right now. And back in that week one game, you're talking about, JJ McCarthy's NFL debut. You're talking about Caleb Williams' first game with Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator, or as his play caller, pardon me. And so you're talking about a lot of fresh, a lot of new in that week one game, a lot of change, a lot of turnover, a lot of trying to acclimate yourself to these systems. And so now I look at where these teams are. They're vastly different in week 11. These offenses, I think, can find success against each other. Minnesota against Baltimore last week, we saw Baltimore's offense find some success in moving the ball in between the 20s. It was just when they got to the red zone that they were obviously stalling and had to settle for a lot of field goals. I see Ben Johnson, the Chicago offense, having seen this Minnesota defense once already. I'm expecting maybe a little bit more efficiency inside the 20 from that offense. And the same thing goes on the flip side as well. I mean, Chicago's defense isn't anything to get super excited about already. But again, these two teams squaring off at home, again, having already seen each other in a dome, pardon me, having already seen each other 10 weeks ago, that intrigues me a lot. And so I'm expecting points in this. I'm expecting both offenses to be able to move the ball efficiently. Over 48 and a half, one unit.
All right, so we'll start off with a little NFC North matchup over 48 and a half. Bears Vikings. Josh, our last two plays for the NFL slate are going to come in the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Pittsburgh for a day with the Steelers.
Yeah, this is kind of a fun one. Hey, well, I'll give both the plays right now. We're gonna go Cincinnati plus 5.5 on the side. We're also taking over 49. I'll start with the over actually really quickly. Cincinnati's an over team right now. Ever since Joe Flacco got there, that's just what they are. The defense is historically bad. The offense is clicking with Joe Flacco. The funny thing about this, Bryce, and like this total and even the side and why I like it a lot, you'll remember these two teams played each other back when right after Joe Flacco got traded to Cincinnati. They had that game. Cincinnati had that game, a game in Green Bay, and then they turned around really quickly on that Thursday nighter and they played Pittsburgh. They obviously beat the Steelers in a high scoring one. Joe Flacco threw the ball like 50 times in that game. I don't see anything really changing in this spot. And the thing that I really like about this for Cincinnati, for starters, 5.5 points is just way too many for the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover in this spot, in my opinion. The other thing that I like here is let's keep in mind that when Joe Flacco and that Cincinnati offense first played Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, Joe Flacco was like 10 days new in Cincinnati, right? That's what made everything that he did so much more impressive. Now he's had a bye week. They're coming off the bye. They're a little bit more rested, recuperated. And I think this offense is going to find no trouble again, especially with Darius Slay is going to miss this game. And then you have on the other side Pittsburgh. That offense is going to find success again. It's as simple as that. Since, again, Cincinnati's defense is historically bad, I'm not really worried. Aaron Rodgers is still playing some really good football. It's just about those around him, obviously rising to the occasion. I just want to talk about the side really quickly and kind of what I'm buying into with this side for Cincinnati plus 5.5. Obviously, it was announced earlier this week that Joe Burrow is returning to practice. He returned to practice this week. He's targeting a return in a few weeks, which is obviously huge news for the Bengals. I'm buying into the thought that kind of galvanizes the team a little bit. I think that knowing that with the way that this AFC North picture is looking right now, the division's wide open once again. I had written off your Baltimore Ravens a couple of weeks ago, Bryce, and now with the Pittsburgh Steelers and their struggles recently, this division is wide open again. Now the fact that you see that the Cincinnati Bengals, they still have a chance to get to the playoffs, even though they have missed Joe Burrow for however many weeks now. Now you know that there is an end in sight to this injury. I believe that is enough to kind of get this team up for this. I don't know how you don't get up for this game. Now you know, listen, if we can just stay afloat for the next couple of weeks, we're going to get our guy back here, and so then hopefully as well you got the other reinforcement. I know Shamar Stewart is going on IR here as of today, but hopefully you've got Trey Hendrickson also coming back so you can get your big pass rusher as well. I think that there's a lot of reasons for the Cincinnati Bengals to be optimistic going into this game, and as a result, to get catching 5 points against a team that you already beat just a few weeks ago, and not much and actually a lot has changed as far as on the offensive side of the ball for Cincinnati, but not much has changed on the defensive side of the ball. I just think that that's too much for the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover in this spot. So Cincinnati plus 5.5 over 49. I like the spot for Cincinnati here. I really do, for another high scoring affair, and I think they'll keep it close. Whether they win or not remains to be seen, but I think this is going to be another very similar to what we saw on that Thursday Night Football a few weeks ago.
You mentioned it, Josh. That AFC North is wide open. Should be a high scoring, tight game, and that's exactly where we're going with those two plays. All right, Josh, you mentioned at the top of the show you're going to close this thing down with a little Canadian football action. We've done some plays for this game. Of course, the Grey Cup we're talking about on this channel in the past, one of the oldest traditions in sports.
Yeah.
We of course, as Canadians, you, of course, as a Canadian sports journalist, have been covering this quite extensively this week.
Yeah.
You've kind of been at the stadium all week. Talk to the people about your play for the big game up here north of the border.
Yeah, this is actually going to be a really fun game. I'll be at that game, boots on the ground for this one. So that'll be fun to watch. Montreal Alouettes against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The American viewers are like, what? What are we talking about here? This is being played on a neutral field, actually, in our home here, Bryce, Winnipeg, Manitoba, at Princess Auto Stadium. We're gonna go with the underdogs here in this spot. Actually, the Montreal Alouettes are They are catching their, it's 3.5 points is the spread here. We're going Montreal through plus 3.5 for 1 unit is the play here. These are two really evenly matched teams, and quite frankly, the only reason why this number is where it is right now is there is a lot of uncertainty around Montreal's quarterback, Davis Alexander, and his status, his health status. It is a left hamstring injury that he's been dealing with since April, that he re-aggravated in last week's Eastern Division final, which is the semifinals here up in Canada, and so he re-aggravated that, and now that is the biggest storyline heading into this week is whether or not A, he plays, and B, how long he plays. If he does play, how long can he stay? I'm here to tell you, I've watched him all week. I've talked to him. It's like, I mean, he look. I've watched him practice. He looks good, and he's running. He's sprinting at practice. He let it loose yesterday actually, and was kind of running around. He's jumping around. He looks like normal, and the hamstring does not look like an issue. Now, obviously, you could say it's going to be different come game time. But I'm going to go along with the fact what I've seen all week, and he is talking about rehabbing 4 or 5 times a day leading up into this Grey Cup. So it's been really fascinating to watch. But outside of the quarterbacks, these are two extremely evenly matched teams. Defenses that can take over. They've got a plethora of weapons on offensive side of the ball. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. They can take the ball away. They can stop the run. I don't know which way this game's going to go. It could be a shootout. It could be a defensive struggle. I have no idea. But all I do know is that it's going to be a close game. And I actually think Montreal absolutely can win this game outright. And so getting 3.5 points here is very intriguing to me in this spot. Davis Alexander is going to play in this game, and he's going to play like we know how he's going to play. He's going to play well. Montreal plus 3.5, 1 unit.
All right, so we're rolling with the Owls, the Montreal Alouettes in the Canadian Grey Cup. I believe in the States, that game usually premieres on ESPN 2 or 3. I can't remember which one, but keep it peeled for that if you're looking for eyes on that game. Sunday around 4 or 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. All right, Josh, we have 4 plays on the board, 3 in the NFL, 1 in the CFL. That'll do it for this week's show. We appreciate everyone tuning in, and we will see you right back here for next week's NFL Best Bets video. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep.